everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 150. Today I'm going to talk about CO2. This is a game from Stronghold Games and Geochix.it. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, Italian company. It's a game that plays 1 to 5 players. It's named CO2, which is short for carbon dioxide. I have a lot I want to say about this game. So let me just jump into how it works, and then I can come back and tell you a lot more about what I think. Okay, so you can see I've got the board set up here before the game's about to start. There's a lot to kind of take in, and I'm pretty sure the video camera is not really going to pick up as good as it should in this case, so I will be zooming in different areas to kind of explain different parts of the game. There's a definite watercolor motif here. So you can see you've sort of got the North Pole or maybe Antarctica here. And sort of this melted, bluish, light blue color. And you've got different regions. So you can see you've got North America here, possibly Oceania or Australia here, and other different parts of the world. And you've got a turn track up here. You can't really see it probably from here, but you start basically at 1970, and then you play until basically 2010, or in a 5-player game, 2020. So you're going to take several action rounds over the course of a decade. This little yellow marker here is going to move along once you get to the end. We're going to advance a decade, do a little bit of minor setup to start the decade, and then you play again. Now, the gist of the game, like I said, you start in 1970, you go up to 2010, 2020. Basically, it's the idea that global warming or global climate change has basically gone out of control. You're trying to keep it from going out of control. So you're basically trying to replace dirty energy, coal, natural gas, oil, with clean energy, solar, recycling, biofuels, nuclear, cold fusion in this case, or reforestation. Now you can see in here, let's take Australia for example. We've got 3 what's called CEP markers here. And based on sort of the region's population, they're going to start off with a different stack. So China here, or Asia, starts off with 5. And then we've got a central market here of CEPs that start off with 2, and then each player is also going to start off with 2 of their own. Then you've got the current market price here of 3. And what these are basically carbon credits. So if you're familiar with the idea of cap and trade, which I don't think is in existence by any stretch of the imagination, these are basically sort of like permits, but abstracted to a definite degree in that each of these different regions basically has sort of a sustainability maximum, and there are sort of an allowable pollution rate that they're allowed to put out in the game. And this just sort of gauges that from sort of an economic standpoint. But I'll go into a lot more detail on these CEPs in a little bit. I just want to show you that they're there and they're going to be different for each region. And the other thing that the regions are going to have, or they're going to randomly be dealt these power plants here. So here you have an oil power plant. You see it's got a value of 30, in this case, ppms. Okay. Now China starts off with 1 natural gas plant. It's got 20 ppms there. So you're going to deal these out, and then you're going to look on this track here. You can see where that black marker is there. You're going to count up the carbon dioxide sort of output of these different abstract power plants in each of the regions, and then set the number here. So in this case I got it set up, it starts at 170. Now as the game's going to go along, we're going to draw out more of these plants if we aren't building green plants, and I'll show you the green power plants here. But as this marker here sort of goes up and up and up, it's going to get sort of to a critical level here. And you can see there's sort of this biohazard icon here on the track. This is at 350. Once this hits, we may have some sort of environmental catastrophes that happen here. Now, it's not really necessarily specific environmental things that are tied to global warming in this case. But I'm going to touch on this a little bit later. It's definitely got a global warming theme, but in some sense it's more about sustainability and sort of overall sort of global sustainability in some cases. So this is going to hit the abstract number of 350, and it's going to cause an event. It's not going to be too heinous. But if this marker keeps increasing, gets all the way to the bottom here, at 500, then all of the players are going to lose the game. Nobody's going to win. The game's going to win. Basically, we screwed the planet up, and I don't know, you descend into sort of a fallout, dystopian anarchy or something. Now you can also see on the bottom here, just for your information, there's a score track here. The players are going to go up. They're going to get victory points for building plants, green plants, and doing other kinds of things. So the game comes with a player aid here. You basically have 3 main actions. You've got propose project, install a project, and then construct, basically turn a project into a power plant. So you've got to always do one of these 3, and you can only do one of them, but you have to do one of those 3. And then you have sort of a set of free moves here. So you can play a card or possibly buy a card, you can move a scientist or do something with a scientist there, and then you can buy and sell from this CEP market here once. You can buy one thing or sell one thing. So let's talk about the projects and the green power plants. It's the main thing you're going to be interacting with in the game. Okay, so like I said, there's several different types of green energy or clean energies in the game. I've sort of listed them from sort of the easier ones to construct at the beginning of the game towards some of the ones that are just, they're more expensive. Not that you can't construct these at the beginning of the game, but they're a little bit more pricey. Now these are going to come in stacks here. I just shown one of each just to kind of give you an idea. So the bottom row here, these are the projects here. So you're going to take, and when you propose a project, you're going to take and flip this face down and put it on the board. And then later on, you or somebody else, it doesn't have to be you that proposed it, they can install it. What they're going to do is they're going to flip it, and they're going to get a reward. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. Now once a project is flipped or installed, then you can sort of upgrade that project to an actual power plant. You're going to have to pay a dollar amount, in this case $6, 2 technology cubes, and you get this many points. So that's roughly what you're going to spend the majority of your game doing. You're going to propose, then install, and then you're going to upgrade the install and actually build the plant. So let's talk about proposing and how that works. So when you propose a plant, like I said, you take one of these and then you put it face down. Now you can tell that a region wants a certain type of energy, in this case solar energy, based on these tiles that were randomly distributed to start the game. These are all going to show 3 different types of energy. You're going to put the little token like this, and it sort of draws a line down to the region. So Oceania will take either solar, nuclear, or biomass. And then you've got a choice here. You can propose in one of these 3 sort of grant spaces. So if I put this here, I'm going to get 2 white cubes, 2 of these technology cubes into my supply. If I put it here, you can see I see a $sign and a skull. And the skulls are those CEP markers here. So if I put that there, I'm going to get money equal to the number of CEP markers in that region. So Oceania is going to give me 3, or Asia or China is going to give me 5. So they're going to be different regions on the board at the beginning of the game, and as the game sort of evolves in this market of CEPs, the sort of abstracted sort of global economy shifts and changes, you're going to be able to get more money out of different regions. And then finally, you can put it on this one here. Now you start with 1 pawn in your supply, and this is a scientist. When you put it here, you can move these guys around, basically put that there, and then you get a free sort of scientist move, and I'll talk about moving scientists later, or you can get a new one out of the general supply. So you can just quickly see over here in the corner, you set all your scientists over there. Everybody has 3 in there to start the game, with the 1 that starts the game in their supply. So that's it. You propose a project, pick a region that you want to do it in, and then you put that down and you take whatever grant, reward that region is offering. Now the next thing you can do is install a project. To do that, you've got to pay one of the CEPs here. You'll have 2 in your supply to start. You pay this to the bank. Okay. Now the bank, so we're all clear here, is not that thing in the center of the board. That is the market. The bank is way over there off to the side of the board, just sort of a general supply. So when you do that, when you pay a CEP to flip this, you pay it off the board. It doesn't go into the market. So we're going to take and we're going to flip that over, and then again we're going to get that reward that's on here. So if we flip this, we're going to get 3 white cubes, 3 technology resources. So if you look at these different projects here on the bottom, you can see they all give you a different reward. So all of the recycling projects are going to give you $5 plus a CEP out of the market. Now every time you take CEPs out of the game, they always come out of this market. This is something I've screwed up the first time I played the game, and it totally changes the game, and I've talked to other people and they've actually missed that. So you always, whenever you take a CEP out of the game, it always comes out of here. Whenever you pay a CEP, it always goes off the board. Now there is one case where you can sell a CEP and you sell it right to the market. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's the only time a CEP is ever put into the market, is when you sell one directly to it. And next year we'll go quickly through these. If you flip this one, you get $3 a cube and then a CEP. This one you'll get $5 and a cube. This one you get 2 CEPs, which is quite a bit. So basically propose again, you get whatever the grant space is, flip it over, and then you get that reward. If you notice, so far you haven't had necessarily to pay anything to do any of this. When you propose, you just put it down and you get the reward. When you flip it, yeah, you got to pay it purple to the bank, but then you get this reward back from it. So once there is an installed project, a project that's been flipped over, then you can construct the matching power plant in this region. Now, not only are you going to need the money and the amount of resources here to build this, you're also going to need expertise in this field. Now, there's a track for each of these different power sources there's a different expertise track for each of those. I'll talk about that in a second. But there's a requirement that you have to be up at a certain level. You got to have the know-how to build these plants. But for argument's sake, let's say we've got that, so we're going to build the $10, pay the $10, and then pay the 2 cubes, and then we're going to go ahead and mark that we own that plant. So at this point, that's the only thing that we really own. Any projects in here are really owned by the region at this point. So if I propose, somebody else can flip, and then somebody else even could actually build that. So you've got to really watch out. There's a lot of, and I hesitate to use the word backstabbing here, because it's a huge part of the game, and it's not really backstabbing if you expect it to happen. But it's sort of like, your company comes in, you kind of get the wheels in motion to get, these new technologies and bring the country along, bring the region along. But there's other competing companies in there that are going to utilize your resources, sort of piggyback off your resources, off your expertise and technology. This happens all the time in this industry. But you don't actually own anything until you put a power plant in. So once the first person puts a power plant into a region, they're actually going to mark also that they sort of own that region. They have control of that region. So let's say, Orange comes in here and he builds a biomass plant here, like so. So he's gone through the steps of the project, a plant's been built. So now who has control? Well, you can tell based on the requirements tile here that Australia or Oceania wants solar before it wants nuclear, before it wants biomass. And there's always sort of a consistent hierarchy. So solar is always going to be higher than nuclear. So we can see that green is providing this type of solar and orange is providing the biofuel type. But if orange were to come in here and build a nuclear here, even though these are both underneath and sort of a lower priority type of energy than solar, they actually are providing more types, more varied types to Oceania. So they have 2 types to his 1 type. So even if green had 2 solar plants, they're actually going to lose control because orange is providing a greater variety of types. So orange is going to come in here and he's going to steal control. But let's say it was like this. So let's say it was orange was doing biomass and nuclear, and green was doing solar and nuclear. Then green's going to win out because he has the higher grouping. So if he had solar and nuclear, that's higher than nuclear and biomass because they have sort of the tiebreaker of the more important type of energy. And that's how you determine control. Roughly, there's more tiebreakers, but I don't want this video to be an hour. Okay, so that's your basic action. So you can propose, install, or flip a project, and then you can upgrade that to a power plant. You've got to do one of those things. You've always got to at least do one of those. Now you've got your free moves, and you've got 3 of those. Let's talk about the card move first. So players are going to be dealt or draft a set of these lobby cards here. And these do all kinds of different things, but basically you can play one of these or sort of score a card. Let's talk about these first. So simply on these, you can always discard them for the bottom thing here. So you can always discard that, get a resource, discard that for $2. Let's see, what $2. Discard that to get a CEP out of the market. Discard this one to move a scientist, and things like that. So you can always play one of those cards on your turn, if you wish. The other thing you can do is you can play one of these, and this counts as your card action along with one of your normal actions. So this one is basically telling me if I propose, that's what the $sign means, if I propose a project in South America, I get $3. Or this one is if I construct, you can see the crane there, if I construct a recycling power plant, I can play that and basically get $3 off that plant. This one is if I propose a project in the space that gives me the 2 cubes, because every one of these places has one of those. So if I propose in that, then I can move a scientist like that. And they're all different kinds of things that are sort of going to combo with your different actions here. Here's one for the install. So if I flip a project of the type of nuclear, I'm going to get 2 cubes out of the bank. So you can draft these, or you can basically just get dealt 5, and those are the cards you've got for the game. The other type of card that you can sort of play on your turn or score is you're going to have 10 of these. There's like 12 or 13 of these in the game. You're going to shuffle 10 of these up, put them face up somewhere on the side of the board, and then on your turn, instead of playing another card, you can basically toss in a cube, and then you check the requirement here. So if I have built anywhere on the board a solar, nuclear, and biomass plant, I pay a cube, and I get this, and I get 6 points right there. And then, if I had this one, if I had solar, nuclear, and recycling, I'd throw a cube and I get 5 points. And you collect these and keep these in front of you. At the end of the game, whoever has the most of these are called UN goal cards, sort of satisfying the bureaucracy of the UN, then whoever's the most of these gets 3 points. If everybody has people are tied, they all get 3 points. I should say whoever has the most leftover of these tech cubes, these white cubes, gets 3 points as well. Now the last kind of card are these company goal cards. Everybody's going to be dealt one of these to start the game, and these are sort of a hidden scoring bonus. But during the game, you can actually just discard one of these for $8. If you're really in a pinch for money, all of these you can discard and get $8. And there is a variety of sort of end of game bonuses here. The iconography is not really clear at all. Thankfully, there is a description in the rulebook here of every card. It's not very difficult, but just the iconography, I never look at a card and go, oh, I know what that means. Maybe after I've played it 10 times, I've only played it 3, but I'll be able to memorize it. But you keep this to the end of the game, flip it, and then you get some bonus points. And it'll be something like, you get 3 points for each region that you have a power plant in, or 3 points for each type of power plant you built, or something along that line. So those are the cards. Now the next thing you can do is move a scientist. So remember, you start with one of these, but you can acquire more by placing projects on here. What you're going to be doing with these is moving these to projects. So let's put a couple of projects out here, just for argument's sake, like so, right there. So on my turn, I can move a scientist, right? So I can take it from my hand and put it on any project on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the solar here. So if at the end of my turn, let's say I have a scientist on solar, and in a later turn I get another one on nuclear. Now at the end of my turn, I can choose one of the projects, and then I can get a bump in expertise. And I'll talk about expertise in a little bit, but there's a track for each technology or power source here. So at the end of a turn, I can choose solar, and I'll get a bump on the solar track here. And I just put one of my little discs here, and I'm just going to move that up. So as you have scientists sort of invested and sitting on projects turn by turn, you're going to get a bump. Now you can move a scientist from your hand to a project, or from one project to any other project. If there's already a scientist there, you can't move it there. Or you can move it from a project of a certain type to a summit of a certain type. Now if you remember here, we had these little long things here. These are showing the requirements of the power plants in the different areas. Now these ones here are summits. So let me zoom in on one of these. So to start the game, you deal out 6 of these summits, like so. Now what's going to happen here is I can move my scientist from a solar project to a solar space on a summit. Now he's going to stay locked into that space. I can't ever move him off of there until myself or somebody else moves it from, in this case, a reforestation project onto this space here. So if I had a guy there, and then let's say orange came there on their turn, then at the end of whoever's turn it is, whenever this was completed, we're going to pull these off here. Orange is going to get a bump on the reforestation track. Green's going to get a bump on the solar. And then just because you had a scientist there, you can then choose any of them. So in the case of orange, he was on reforestation. He'll get the bump there. Then he could choose another reforestation or another solar. Now it works a little bit different here. So let's say I had 2 green on here, like so. So green's going to get a whole bunch of stuff. He's going to get 1 reforestation, 1 solar, and then he can choose 1 again. He doesn't get 2 choices, but he gets, because he had a scientist there, he gets to choose anything on there. Not all of these have 2 spaces. Some of them have 4 different resources, and so you can get a bunch of guys on there, sort of work together, and then you get bumps on the expertise track. So the last free action that you can do is you can buy or sell a CEP from the market here, and this is very important. So let me talk a little bit about endgame scoring, and that will show you why this is so important here. So during the game, you're going to score points for building the power plants, right? You build this power plant, you get 8 points. You're also going to score points for scoring these UN goal cards for, building the different power plants. But then you're basically just going to take all your money and add all that into points. Well, these CEPs that you have, anything that you have in your hand is going to be worth whatever they are on the market here, like so. So if this is at the 8 at the end of the game, each one of these is going to be worth $8, or basically 4 points, because every $2 you have at the end of the game is going to be worth 1 point. So if this is $8, each one of these is going to be worth 4 points. And they're not going to be worth as much if somebody has driven the price down and they're really low, like at $2. The other thing to keep in mind with these CEPs is any region that you control. Let's say orange here controls Asia. At the end of the game, they will take all of the CEPs that have amassed themselves here, and they're going to take them, and then they're going to be able to trade them in for whatever the market value is. So let's talk about buying and selling. When you buy a CEP, you simply pay whatever it is. It starts at 3, so at the start of the game I could buy a CEP for 3. It stays at 3. Someone on a later turn could buy another one. They buy it for 3. And then you can see here there's a skull there in the middle. Anytime this is emptied, whenever somebody buys a CEP, or if you install a project like this reforestation project, it tells you to pull 2 CEPs. So if there are 2 CEPs, I'd pull those right out of there. We're going to trigger this little skull, this stop thing. Anytime this is emptied for whatever reason, this is going to bump up, and then you're going to refill 2 CEPs from the bank supply into the market. So as people are buying these and then sort of triggering this sort of event here, this is going to keep moving up and up, up and up and up. Now you can choose to sell 1 CEP. However, if on your turn this was ever emptied and the price changed, you can't sell. You just cannot sell on your turn. Otherwise, you can sell 1 CEP. You get the amount that it's at. So in this case, if I sold a CEP there, I would get 6. And this is immediately going to drop. So 1 sell, 1 drop. Anytime you empty this, it goes up and you refill it with 2 from the bank. So let's talk about these expertise tracks here. So you can see I've got a biomass track, recycling, reforestation, solar, and nuclear. So the main way that you're going to gain on these to start the game is going to be, say, let's say you've got your scientist here. He's on a solar. So at the end of your turn, remember, you can choose a project you have a scientist on, and then you immediately get a bump. So boom, I got a bump there on solar, and now I'm starting to work my way up. The next turn I get another bump, and so on. Now you can see here these cranes here. You probably can't see that one. It's a little washed out in this camera, I'm sure. But let's say I was on nuclear here. Now I can't build a nuclear plant until I hit the crane on there. So once this guy hits the crane, then I can actually build a plant. I can install projects, propose projects, but I can't actually construct a plant until I have some expertise in that. And some of these are a little bit easier. So if you see reforestation here, you need 3 ticks on this track before you can even construct that. Whereas on recycling and the biomass, a little bit easier to build at the start of the game. You just need 1 tick. You know, just need to get on there once. Basically propose a project, put your guy in there, you get the bump in your turn. Let's say you did a recycling and then boom, you got your tick. Then you can start building that right away. And there's all cool little things. So as you sort of bump up on these, you're going to get little bonuses. So if you look at the biomass one here, you're going to go up and then you can see that's a sun there. So as soon as my marker hits that, then I get a bump on the sun track. As soon as I hit this one, I get a bump on the reforestation track. And then some of these, if you land on them, you get a cube. You can maybe see that here. If you go here, then you get a cube. These ones with the little skulls here and the arrows will let you take a CEP out of the center again, and you put it in any region you want around the board. So I could stack here and make China super rich. Just really stack those up. And obviously I will only do that if I control that region. I don't want anybody else getting all those points at the end of the game. Now the other thing to keep in mind with these expertise tracks here is at the beginning of each round, or each decade I should say, you're going to get income. So if we zoom in just a little bit on here, we can kind of see, let's get some focus on that there. So you can see these numbers at the top. So let's say we had just a 2-player game for now. The first place player in a 2-player game is going to get income on the tracks that they're the highest on. So in this case, orange will get 4 income and green will get nothing. But in more players, then orange will get 4 and green will get 3. So the first and second place players will get income. Now if people are tied, in this case it's considered 4 here for green and orange. They're both first place. So if black was here, they're considered second place. So green and orange will both get $4 or 4 points, and green will get $3 or 3 points. So you can split your income. You can get points or dollars, and you can split that however you want. So and you're going to basically check each track like that. So if green was here and here, you basically get 9 income. So you get $9 or 9 points or $5 and 4 points, or however you wanted to split it up. You're going to do that every decade. Now the other thing that you're going to check here on this decade marker here is you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's not only the round number or the turn number, it's also the number of power plants that each region is going to need. So at the start of the game, you're going to deal out 1 of each of those nasty plants, and then you're going to check, moving into these other decades, how many are built and how many are needed. So let's just look at Asia in this case. Asia has 2 power plants. The one nasty one they were dealt, and then somebody went and nicely built a green power plant. So if we move into 1980, the second decade, they're fine. However, if nobody had yet built a power plant there, we're going to draw one off of this little stack at the top of the board here and draw one of these random nasty ones. So that you can see, we'll put that one in there to satisfy the requirement, and then we're going to bump up the CO2 output by 30. And that's roughly the game. So let me tell you a little bit more about what I think. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. This is a game that I really enjoy. I think I find it very innovative. I mean, it's very gutsy with the theme. It's a theme that I've been interested in seeing happen in a board game, where you sort of try to simulate this overall economic, just sustainability in general, whether it's energy, economics, population, whatever you want to call it. I think it's very interesting. It's probably really ignored. Nobody wants to talk about it in a sane way. This makes it fun. It makes it, you can kind of play around and joke about it in about 2 hours. And to me, it's more than just about like global warming. I think global warming is a nice prism for it to fall under. It's sort of an accessible thing. It's an easy way to get people to talk about and get into the theme of the game. But really, to me, it's a lot about sort of the capabilities of these different regions and how they can deal with the growing population, all of this kind of good stuff. What kind of technology expertise are they going to have? Everybody's a different utility company, and in some ways working together. But the whole aspect of, I can install a project and then you can build it out from underneath me, causes people to, in a sense, get greedy and only worry about their own needs, their own victory points, their own money. And the more greedy everybody gets, the less likely people are going to build power plants as quickly as possible. And then the more likely, due to greed, in the case of this game, that the CO2 is going to ramp up to 500 and basically screw everybody. So I really enjoy that aspect. I've never seen a game, loosely in some other games, like maybe like a Brass or in some ways like Airplanes or something. It's a very Wallacey feel, where it's like, I'm going to do this, but then okay, I'm going to piggyback on top of you and do this now. Thanks for providing me that resource. Now I can have a really awesome turn. Well, you thought you were going to have an awesome turn. So it has that feel to it, but I've never really seen it like this, where it's like, propose project, flip project, and then, oh, Billy builds it. So that's cool. That makes it interesting. And I really like how each region is different. China or Asia starts off really rich and full of CEPs, and a lot of people go for that, or North America. It's just really cool. And it really integrates well, and I think that like I said, there's a lot to it. The whole market of these carbon credits, these CEPs, is very interesting, and how you can really manipulate the market with that. And the summit aspect, where you go to the summits together. You're like, hey, you're going to go to the summit next turn. I'm going to put my guy there. You go there. We're both going to get a little bit of a benefit. We're both going to kind of go up the expertise tracks, things like that. There's a lot of different ways to score points. You can really pursue the money aspect, get a ton of CEPs, and then really try to drive the price of those up. Or if you're not really getting that, you can really try to drive the price of those down and score some of the UN goal cards and things like that. I will say the rulebook is fine, but there's a lot in there. I know I left some detail out, and I have when I've explained the game before. It has everything in there. It's all in there, but it's just like there's a lot of little nooks and crannies. I think the game could use a really good player aid. The little player aids they give you are fine, but I think a really nice, exhaustive, like one-page, 8.5 by 11 player aid that just streamlined all those little details would be really helpful, because we've made mistakes when we've played it, and I've played it solitaire, 2-player, 4-player, just those, and I really like it, all those. Solitaire's okay. You kind of learn the game and you kind of get the flow of it, and it's not really a target. You just try not to end the world. But so 2-player is really cool. You don't really build on top of each other that at all, but with more players, you're going to be building on top of each other left and right. I think that's ideally the way to play, by 4 or 5 players maybe. But I still like it with 2. It's just a different experience. And you're going to get higher points with less players, but you're also going to get a lot closer to ending the world with less players. So that's pretty cool. I mean, one detail I left out is if you go over the 350 mark and then somehow bring it back from the brink, you can actually end the game early. And that's a very interesting thing. I shouldn't really gloss over that, because you're not necessarily going to play all the way through or play until destruction. It's very possible in that 4th round to, if somebody thinks they're going to win, they can pull that sucker back and build over some pre-existing dirty plants with clean energy plants, and then pull it back, and then everybody's like, oh no, I wasn't fully done yet, but they went and sort of averted global warming or got us to a sustainable level and fixed it. So yeah, take a look at this one. Innovative theme, innovative mechanics, innovative artwork, all kinds of good stuff.